Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, America's #1 trusted resource for realtors who demand authentic, real-time coaching. Starring award-winning real estate coaches Tim and Julie Harris. Get ready for unfiltered, full-strength honesty about what is truly working to get you into action and make you money in this new real estate boom. Now to our hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Real Estate Coaching Radio. We are joined today by John Thomas, or JT, the CEO of Deductr, an NAR Reach-sponsored startup that offers an innovative platform to help agents and small business professionals easily capture, organize, and itemize their tax deductions. Deductr was designed to automate financial tracking, track tax savings growth over time, and help you avoid missing tax deductions that you deserve, as well as eliminating tax time anxiety. Now, let's welcome JT as we join our host, Tim Harris.
So, JT, welcome to today's call. I really appreciate you being our special guest and my co-host. And, you and I were just exchanging a few words prior to today's show. One of the interesting advantages, if you want to call it that, of being one, we have thousands and thousands of realtor coaching clients, and when we do free coaching calls, and you guys are listening, if you need a free coaching call, just go to freecoachingcallsforagents.com. I would say the largest problem that agents have after they've had a small taste of success, and I'm sure this is true with any small business owner, is lack of money management. They overspend, and then they don't prepare for taxes, and then next thing they know, they're waking up realizing they now have the tax man on their backs, and now they're having to lead generate, now they're having to manage their clients, now they're having to pay off credit card debt. It just is basically a big snowball of worry that really can be avoided. And I was really excited to see that Mr. Ventura, our producer, had set up an interview with you, because I would love to see more agents take their financial planning seriously. So for that, JT, I really am looking forward to today's interview, and welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Tim. I'm very excited to be here.
Very excited? Well, don't be that excited.
Very
it's not that exciting, I assure you.
Well,
okay.
When we're talking about taxes and such, we know that's not everybody's favorite subject, so I've got to be excited.
Yeah, that's right. You and I have to be overly animated to make people want to listen. I get it. But the truth is, though, seriously, if you start managing your taxes and your finances well out of the gates, and out of the gates could be at the turn of the year. So that's why the reason I think the timing of this, this show is really perfect. The difference it can make over 6 months, 12 months is massive. And a lot of you guys have lived through the boom where you were not saving for taxes, or you're not saving at all, and then you had to basically figure out some way to get everything caught up. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. And there are no real big, deep, dark secrets to managing money and building wealth, but there are some basics, and that's what we're going to cover on today's show, and we're going to let you guys know how JT's company can help you with that. So let's start with an overview of the software. JT, what is Deductr, and what does it do?
Well, Tim, Deductr is both a web-based and a mobile-based app and tool that is specifically designed for the independent contractor agent to help them track their expenses, their mileage, and their time so that they can maximize the deductions that you're eligible for.
Simple enough. I'm curious, your background. How did you become involved in Deductr? In the very, very early days of the company, where's this concept come from, and how did you think to bring it to, the real estate community? But also, this is obviously a great product for anyone that owns any kind of business, small or medium-sized or even large, I'm sure.
Absolutely right. And so Deductr has been around for about 5 years, and the genesis of that. Actually, a couple of brothers, entrepreneurs that owned multiple businesses. And when tax time came around, it was just, it was stress, it was headache, it was anxiety of trying to gather everything together as entrepreneurs and independent business owners for tax time. So they thought there's got to be another way. They started working on some concepts. One of their childhood friends, a CPA, so they brought him into the equation. And that's kind of how it all started, just, again, out of real-life experience of saying, there must be a better way. So started by entrepreneurs. I was brought in a little while after that, more on the sales and the marketing and the business side. And it's been no looking back since then. We're having a blast. And also, you're right, this is for any independent business owner. But we're very, very excited about what's happened this year. And with our entry into the real estate industry, because of our participation in NAR's REACH Tech Accelerator. And so that's why we're here today. So the company's been around now for 5 years, but this is our first year in a dedicated fashion in real estate.
So I think I read someplace that 7 out of 9 tax returns miss critical deductions, and something like over $1 billion is overpaid in taxes per year. Can Deductr help with that? And how would, like from a practitioner or real estate agent's perspective, give us some ideas of maybe some things where realtors aren't necessarily taking the right amount of deduction?
Perfect. And, those are startling numbers, that so many are missing deductions and leaving money on the table. And, you've seen those H&R Block commercials about the $1 billion. And Tim, this is obviously also why, what you do in the coaching side is so critical, because so many new agents come from perhaps a W-2 background. So all their career, they've been an employee, so to speak, and their employer has taken care of their taxes. And now they come into real estate because of the opportunity there. But being a 1099er is a whole new world for them. And so, the coaching that you provide, not on how to be successful in getting listings and such, but also how to be successful as a business owner is wonderful. And yes, Deductr feels like we can help agents not fall into that statistics. We can help them track their expenses, maximize the mileage deduction that they're eligible for, and that's where many agents leave literally thousands of dollars on the table come tax time. So really those are the two biggest categories. Expenses, I think some people get a handle on. I talk to many agents, and they just say, I don't mess with mileage. And that just can't be. The mileage deduction right now is 56 cents a mile. So there's agents listening out there that drive 10,000 miles a year, 20,000 miles a year. Top agents are out there driving 30,000 miles a year. And if an agent's driving 30,000 miles a year, that's $17,000 in deductions that they may not be capitalizing on. And that just
that is insane. So do you mind if we drill down on that stat for a little bit for the sake of our listeners? So, I'm chewing on that for a second. That's pretty incredible. Let's use that top agent example that you used, just because I think it will make for the best listening. So if an agent is not taking the mileage deduction and they're losing hypothetically, they're driving 30,000 miles a year and they're losing hypothetically 17,000 or overpaying by 17,000, I think is what you're saying, hypothetically. How does that work if the car is financed or if the car is leased or if the car is, can you give us a little bit more backstory on that? Agents, please, at the very least, consider, using the software and then taking these notes from what you're learning and sharing them with your accountant. Never, ever, 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 and take it from someone who's been through a lot of accountants, don't assume that your accountant is going to do as thorough a job as you think looking for deductions for you. Ultimately, your tax planning is your responsibility. You could have the best accountant in the world, but guess what? Come tax time, that guy or gal are busy, and they're not going to really necessarily take the time to help you, turn over all the rocks to look for all the ways that you might be able to save on your taxes. So keep this stuff in mind. Guys, this is, I know this is not a sexy topic. We're not talking about lead generation. We're not talking about all the other things realtors like to talk about. But this is the most important thing. This and probably building wealth, part of building wealth is not overpaying on taxes, are the real litmus test of your ability to be a long-term business owner versus, doing what so many other agents do and struggle their entire careers and oftentimes fail out of the business. manage your money, learn to manage your taxes, and guess what? Your savings will grow. So drill down on us with regards to that example you gave a little bit more. Like most agents, I imagine, nowadays are leasing their cars. You can't take the mileage deduction if you're leasing, correct?
Well, every agent needs to track their mileage, and one of the things that you just keyed on is, sometimes some are fortunate to have an accountant, a CPA, a tax pro that really will strategize with them. But more often than not, our CPAs are only as good as the information that we give them. And so you need to go to your tax pro and say, I'm leasing, I've already paid off this vehicle, whatever, but also here's my mileage, and let your CPA strategize with you about where you're going to get the most out of your deductions. Your CPA can then, again, with the information, can strategize and say, you know what, you'd be better off to lease. You'd be better off to take mileage. Also, what Deductr will allow you to do is to track your fuel and maintenance, because some agents say, oh, I don't track mileage, I just track my gas. Well, 9 times out of 10, the mileage deduction is going to be greater. With a tool like Deductr, we're going to let you track both fuel and maintenance and mileage, and then at the end of the year tell you which is going to give you the greater deduction. So again, don't try to play games. Don't try to say, I'm not going to do this because I'm doing this. Let a tool like Deductr help you look at all your possibilities, all your options, and then put the information into the hands of your tax pro, and then let them help you get the best situation possible.
Well, so JT, the example we're using here is talking about the low-hanging fruit like an automobile deduction, but I'm sure Deductr helps them, ascertain the best way to go about savings tax, paying less in taxes, still paying their legal fair share in all categories, not just cars. We're just using cars as the most salient example because everyone can relate. Right. So, so guys, remember the software does more than just help you with your car stuff. So, I'm curious, have you guys ever figured out how much the average person saves by using Deductr?
We have looked at that from time to time, and so, I should throw out all the disclaimers and all that. But when we look at agents, again, we've got a spectrum of from part-timers to full-time top-producing agents. And we can, even a part-timer, we see on average saving hundreds of dollars a month on their taxes. And that's real money back in their pockets. When we look at full-timers who are really treating this like a business, we see thousands. Now, I don't mean tens of thousands a month, but I mean a couple of $1,000s a month, real tax savings. And as one of the things you mentioned, Tim, is this is not designed to try to help people manipulate the system or find any loopholes. This is about helping hardworking Americans take advantage of the tax laws in this great country that we live in to the full advantage, so that they do not pay one penny more than they should, but that they take advantage of every deduction that they are eligible for.
So how does Deductr work? Does it connect with your bank account or your debit card? What about credit cards like Amex and whatnot?
Perfect. So on the mileage side, just for a second, there's an app. It ties into the GPS in your smartphone, whether that's iOS or Android. So we're going to make tracking your mileage easy. Many agents were told, keep a notebook in the car and write down the odometer reading every time you, at the beginning and the end of every business drive. And Tim, I've now talked to thousands, tens of thousands of agents, and hardly anybody does that. And so Deductr is going to help you with the mileage. Use that app, use the GPS, automate that, and make it easy, and don't miss a mile. Now,
JT, let me jump in here. Let me jump in here.
Yeah.
That you just said something that I've not heard before. That's very cool. So you're saying Deductr's smartphone app basically will keep track of the miles they're rolling around in, because it'll know based on the speed of the smartphone, whether they're in a car versus walking, and then starts tracking miles. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it. I'm sure it was unbelievably complicated to create this, but that's in essence what you're saying. That's pretty brilliant. And yeah, you're right. I mean, who does keep track? Who has a little notebook? I'm sure there's like one listener of the 50,000 we have that does have a notebook in their glove box. But yeah, for the most part, most agents at the end of the year are just guessing, and hopefully nobody calls them accountable. And this is perfect for record keeping, but also if you were to ever get audited, you have something vastly superior just to the old notebook and pen solution. You have an actual, software program that's been tracking the miles. That's brilliant. I love it. So let's talk about how it does tie in with your accounts, your credit cards, your bank accounts, your all the rest of it. So describe that.
Yeah. So we just talked about how we kind of automate things to make it easy to track mileage. Now, to your point, how do we automate and do kind of the same thing with expense tracking? And yes, Deductr allows you to link your bank account, your credit card, your debit card to the application. You can link as many accounts as you want. There's no limit. And we, right now, every week the list grows, but right now I think the list is up to 40,000 financial institutions that our users can link to their accounts. So whether it's Capital One, whether it's Bank of America, whether it's Amex, or whether it's Navy Credit Union or a local credit union, 40,000 institutions. So the chances are, something like 99% or something of our listeners out there are going to be able to link to their financial institution. So once that linking is in place, and you just do that one time, then Deductr is going to automatically import the transaction from that account. So now we put the user, instead of in a data entry mode of maybe keeping a spreadsheet or log or something like that, we just simply allow them to review the transactions, and every transaction that's business, they confirm as a business expense by simply dropping it into a category for tax purposes, like meals and entertainment, or travel, or office supplies. And then there's also a note or a description field, and that's where you can enter the things that we normally used to write down on a receipt. So, Tim, if I took you to lunch, I get the receipt and I write down, lunch with Tim, discussing, real estate radio, and then rather than doing that on a receipt, I can then do that in Deductr, and then I captured that deduction. And all I had to do was confirm it was business by dropping in the category. And if I use one of these accounts for personal expense, I can simply remove that from Deductr because it doesn't impact my tax situation as an independent business owner. And so it's really that easy.
Well, so Deductr a lot of our top students, JT, use mint.com, I think mostly because it's free. And it sounds, and all Mint does, I'm sure you're aware of that product. And all Mint really does.
Absolutely, great product.
Well, so if you don't, this wasn't on our pre-prepared questions, and I'm just curious. So how would Mint compare to Deductr? Because it seems like Deductr is doing a lot more than what Mint.com does.
You're absolutely right. So Mint is a great tool, and so this linking feature that we were just talking about is similar. So yeah, if we got users out there that have used Mint, when they get into Deductr and do the same thing, they're going to go, oh, yeah, I know how this works. I'm comfortable with this. But the difference is Mint is a great tool, but that's a personal finance manager. And so it's not designed for the independent business owner. It's not designed for the independent contractor agent, the realtors that are trying to maximize their deduction. Mint is designed to help me manage my own personal finances. Where's my money going, and to pay my utility bill, and how much am I spending on groceries and stuff. Great tool, but for a far different purpose than helping realtors maximize their deductions.
Well, your core focus is helping agents categorize and understand their expenses. Where's my money going? But then also your focus is also on helping them to save money on taxes, whereas Mint.com is just categorizing where the expenses go. But if someone wanted to use Deductr for personal and business, would it work?
It can work. And in fact, I talked about these categories that we have which line up.
That's what I was thinking.
Code.
Yeah, you just basically make more categories. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Users can create their own custom categories. So if they want to track some of their personal expenses in that, all the tools are there to do that. Absolutely.
Because most agents will use one credit card for everything, right? And they'll use it for business and personal. Then they have to go through, when it's tax time, they go through their credit card statements. And, Amex does a decent job of parsing things off into different categories, but certainly not at the level what you're talking about. And then you export that information to your accountant or to QuickBooks or whatever. And then, so what you're doing is you're cutting out a lot of steps. And the thing I really like what you're doing, it's interesting, when you are constantly in contact with your money, you have a tendency to save more of it versus the whole thing of like ignoring all of this. And what you're doing is you're helping. It's like the whole exercise thing. It's you exercise every day for a certain amount of time. You're conscious of what you're eating. You're monitoring, how many carbs you're eating. You're monitoring how many hours of sleep. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis on health stuff nowadays. And what Deductr seems to be doing is taking people down the same level of, let's call it a financial awakening, because even though there's a lot of widgets built into the back end of making this work, like the thing we talked about with the smartphone tracking your miles in your car, the flip side to it is if you guys are thinking about where your money is going, you will inevitably start saving more money and maybe being more prudent on where you spend money in the first place. So anything that raises your awareness of finances will inevitably make you more, financially aware. Simple. So kind of curious more so, and I understand that it's like if I had just an ordinary paper receipt, you can just take a photo of that with your smartphone, and then that automatically gets entered too, correct? You have to probably categorize it, but that works the same way, right?
Yeah, let me talk about that. So when we talk about receipts in general, we just trademarked a new tagline, Tim, and it's think outside the shoebox. Okay?
That's good.
Because we don't want to see realtors anymore going around with pockets full of receipts, and then they go home and they're in an envelope, and the envelope gets too big, and then they're in a shoebox, and then at the end of the year it's time for stress because they don't know what to do with that shoebox, or they just take it to their account and expect a miracle. So you're absolutely right. So if I use my credit card for something, we've now talked about how you can link that account to Deductr, and Deductr will automatically import in those transactions. Now, if I pay cash, if I, buy a hot dog, if I take a taxi or whatever it is, and I pay for cash, Deductr is not going to be able to automatically import that from my merchant, from my bank account. So yes, with our smartphone app, you take a photo of the receipt, and then that's uploaded in our cloud, and it's permanently stored in Deductr. Now, the IRS says any expense under $75, no one needs to save a paper receipt. Okay? Most accountants are going to tell our listeners out there that an expense over $75, and a conservative accountant is going to say, save some form of that receipt. And taking a photo of the receipt using our app or something is going to be one of the best ways to preserve that. We all see these receipts nowadays. They're on this thermal paper that's recycled, and if you've taken a cab lately, 2 weeks after that taxi ride, you can't read that receipt anyway. It's faded. The ink is about gone, and I'm all for being green and being conscious of our environment, but those receipts are worthless because they fade so quickly. So use the app, capture a photo of every receipt that's over $75 that's going to be important for you, and store it in the cloud forever.
So an agent signs on using Deductr today. They're going to start their year out. One of their things they want to do better next year is they want to really start managing their money at a higher level. That's usually on everyone's list of things to improve on, that and lose weight, right? So those are one of they want to start out the new year. They're going to start out right. They're going to manage all their money. They're going to go through. They're going to follow the system. I'm sure you guys have brilliant tutorials on how to make the system work. And with technology the way it is, it's probably pretty easy. So how does it come April 15th, 2016, right? Tax year in advance or 2-year tax years in advance. Then what happens to all that data? Does an agent then send that to their accountant, or tell me what the process is then?
Perfect question, and you're right. So as the realtor's been using the tool for a year, when tax season comes, it really is payday because now you get to reap the rewards. So we have two types of realtors out there listening. There are some who do their own taxes. And so as they use Deductr and tax time comes, they're going to go to our reports section, and with a single click, they click on the report, it says tax report, and they get everything that they need to, if there's anything relative to their business that goes in their Schedule A, it's there, but more importantly is all the Schedule C by category, every expense detailed out. And if they do their own taxes, whether they use TurboTax or Block Online or one of those tools, it's all laid out for them, again, by one of our co-founders, CPA, and they're going to say, wow, this is such a great experience. I've got my Schedule C form here, and everything is there that I need. Now, the other side of the equation is those out there that use a tax professional, and in the past maybe have gone to that tax professional with a shoebox expecting a miracle. Now they're going to go with their report from Deductr. They can print it out and take it to their tax professional. They can email it to their tax professional and say, you know what, here's everything you need. Give me a call when you need me to come over and sign my forms, to sign my filings. And this is a gratifying experience both for the realtor as well as their tax pro, because now the tax pro has information in an organized format. They're going to be more efficient. They're going to do a better job of saving the realtor money and filing in an efficient way. And the reality is everybody comes out ahead.
So you guys have been in business for a while. I'm sure you have lots and lots of very happy users. I'm sort of curious, the before and after, agents that maybe weren't, or even business owners for that matter, that weren't necessarily, a lot of people, when it comes to taxes and money in general, they hide their heads in the sand. It's just something that causes them stress. But what's one of those things that when you decide to face it head on and you start to learn it and take control of it, your whole life kind of changes, especially your relationship with money. I'm kind of curious, any stories come to mind of people that basically were users of your product that maybe had been of the ostrich head in the sand variety before and telling you about their before and after relationships with money or finances?
Yeah, a couple of examples come to mind. One is not only does Deductr save the realtor money on their taxes, in other words, reduce their taxes, but an example comes to mind of somebody who they said because they were better organized and they used the same CPA for years, they saved 50% on their tax prep bill.
I bet.
I mean, so we're talking about double benefits here. I mean, I'm maximizing my deduction, but in the past, I mean, this particular individual, made a decent amount of money, usually paid CPA $4,000 for tax prep. And it cut his tax prep bill with his CPA in half.
Right, I don't doubt it.
So yet another benefit of being organized, of using the tool, and then giving your CPA, the information in the most efficient format. And again, we can get in the reports, but also there's exports. And, we just came back from New Orleans and talked to thousands of agents there. And agents come up sometimes and they say, well, I use QuickBooks. And like, why do you use QuickBooks? Well, because my accountant told me to, right? Well, QuickBooks isn't for agents. That's for accountants. But accountants have been telling realtors to do things to make accountants' life easier. Well,
right.
Deductr is designed for agents, and we have a QuickBooks export that's going to then allow the agent to use a tool designed for them, but then to give the accountants what they need. And so another example I can think of, we talked to some folks that have been audited, unfortunately. And that's never a great experience. And Deductr can't prevent an audit. But in case of an audit, we've talked to users who said, man, when the auditor saw my reports, my tracking, my logs, it was like case over. Seriously, case over.
There's a feeling of confidence. Well, there's a feeling of confidence that comes from knowing that you are being financially responsible. And I'm not just saying guys wasting money on, some of the things that are being sold to agents, but when you are truly aware of what's happening with your money. You know, that those middle of the night sweats you guys have sometimes, or the where's my paycheck going to come from 30 to 60 days from now? Those things are mitigated a lot of times. Agents, they love to focus on lead generation. Any lead generation idea agents will line up around the corner for, but you guys don't really, you don't really realize that the end result, the whole reason why you're in this business, aside from the fact that you love selling real estate, you want to be your own boss, and it's a creative outlet for you, and all those usual excuses, right? But the whole point of being in real estate, of owning your own business, of taking the risk, is to make a profit. And a lot of times agents will not manage their finances correctly, so that, sure, they might make great money, but at the end of the year, all their money goes away to taxes, or all their money goes away to they don't know where. And so the money that they thought they made is gone. There is no profit. You guys have to understand that there really is no secret sauce. There's no secret book of tax savings that you get once you cross some financial threshold. Don't learn the hard way and not pay your taxes on time. And I realize that probably 50% of you listening have had a situation where you did or do owe back taxes. It's so common in the real estate industry. Well, why don't you make a decision that going into 2015, you are finally going to take your financial planning seriously. And, if you already are taking your financial planning seriously, you already are responsible for all that, consider taking it to the next level, because that feeling of control over finances, that's pretty incredible. That's spectacular. That way, it's not just I have this many leads and this many closings, but you know what? This is my profit from it. This is my taxes from it. This is how much money I'm going to save from it. This is what I'm going to do with those investments, and this is the wealth I'm going to build from it. So, JT, if someone wants to engage with your software, how do they go about doing it, and what does it cost?
Fantastic. So the retail price on Deductr, it's a subscription model, so it's $19.95 a month or $199 a year. Again, we're talking about a tool that saves realtors thousands of dollars a year, but that's the retail price. Tim, the reality is we just got back from New Orleans and annual conference and expo, and while we were there, we had a special, we had a promotion, and through our affiliation with NAR, realtors can get Deductr at half off, so $9.95 a month or $99 a year. And there at the expo, we even had a great offer to allow people to try this. Here we are, almost the end of the year, so we had a special there on the convention floor at the expo where folks can, for $1, they can try Deductr for 60 days, see if they like it, and if they stay on it, they permanently get that NAR half-price discount. So I thought, even though Monday the show was over, back in Utah now, but I thought for your listeners today, we would extend that offer. So anybody listening today can go to Deductr.com/NAR2014, and they can sign up for $1 and try Deductr for the next 60 days. So that's Deductr.com. And Tim, you probably know this, but we spell a little funny. All right, it's DEDUCTR. And if we could get maybe a dozen of your users to sign up today and pay $1, we could probably buy the vowel for that last syllable and spell it.
Well, I'll make it easy for you. And maybe this isn't a good time to tell you this, JT, but most of our listeners listen in replay. So basically the link you just gave, you better keep that link live for a long time because agents are going to be listening to this for probably the next year, if not longer. So just keep that in mind. And also, as far as remembering the URL, guys, don't worry about it. We'll just include a link in the description, in the show description, like we always do. So, JT, we are a little bit over, and I've got to actually get to a coaching call. So I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for taking the time to let us know about your product. And, congratulations for participating in NAR's Reach program. That's, I'm sure, a huge boost to your business. And, wow, what a great group of people to be associated with. So, listeners, thank you for listening today. And your homework from today's Real Estate Coaching Radio show, like every Real Estate Coaching Radio show, is to share this interview, share the show with as many other agents as you can. So, as you always do, Facebook it, tweet it, do whatever it takes to help us get the word out that this is the very beginning stages of a new real estate boom. So, JT, thank you very much for your time, and listeners, we'll talk with you on the radio tomorrow.
Thank you, Tim.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.